Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Watch and Roll. If you like this content, I suggest you to subscribe, as I will upload similar content later, such as a full review of this Oris Aquis 839. Today it's Switzerland versus Japan with the Seiko 62 MAS Reinterpretation Patty Special Edition versus the Oris Aquis. Let the battle begin. One, efficiency of the movement. In one hand we have the Oris caliber 733, which is basically an in-house regulated Sellita SW200, which is a clone of the ETA 2824, versus the in-house 6R15. Accuracy-wise, the Oris 733 does not have a specified rating on the manual, while on the Seiko 6R15 it's rated at -15 plus 25. In reality, usually 6R15s are really accurate when they are fully wound. This 6R15 is getting around 0 seconds per day when it's fully wound, and -5 when the power reserve is low. On cold temperature it's getting around +2 seconds, and on the Oris 733 is also getting a +2 seconds per day. So right now both movements are surprisingly getting the same accuracy, although when the Seiko power reserve is low it tends to deviate more while the Oris keeps more stable results. Even though the 6R15 gives the same result as the 733, I will give more credit to the 733 for being more stable on accuracy. The 6R15 runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour, while the Aquis 733 runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour. So the higher beat movement could naturally be more accurate, while the Seiko, for having a lower beat rate, is more robust and will not need service as often as the Oris. It's impressive how Seiko can get such an accurate movement at such a lower BPH and for a lower price. Pulling the crown in different positions on the Oris feels more quality than the Seiko, but ironically the winding action on the Seiko is more refined and feels smoother. The Oris hour change action is more refined than the Seiko, and the hour change takes longer on the Seiko, while the hour changes are more instantly on the Oris. So both have positives and negatives over the other, but what makes the Seiko to get the upper hand, especially for the price, is the anti-magnetic properties with the sprung, that is also a more durable material than what the Oris has, because it doesn't fatigue as fast, the magic lever, and a bigger power reserve with 50 hours, while on the Oris you only get 38 hours. Overall, I feel the Seiko 6R15 is a more trustable, reliable movement that will last longer, and overall more efficient because it can accomplish all that at a half price than the Oris. The Oris, although is not a bad movement at all, it's been around for a long time and it has its pros, like a smoother crown operation, a higher beat rate with a smoother sweeping hand, and a better day change. But for half the price you get anti-magnetic properties, a more durable movement, the magic lever, and overall more efficient movement, so I have to give these points to the Seiko 6R15. Next is the design of the watch. Which watch design is more efficient at doing its job? Let's see, the Seiko has a more legible handset, a more legible hour markers, with the 12-hour markers being more notorious than the one on the Oris. The bezel operation is super good on both watches. Seiko achieving this with the design of the shape of the bezel and having a coin edge, and the Oris achieving this by changing the angle of the case profile, allowing the watch to be smaller and having a great grip at the same time. I think the case design on the Oris to achieve that is more interesting than the Seiko, and the Seiko is a bigger watch. There is more legibility also by being bigger, but the Oris, being a smaller watch, has a lower probability of hitting surfaces. The crown on the Seiko has no crown guards, while the Oris has crown guards that can be replaced. So probably the Oris crown is better protected and has great operation and grip, but the crown on the Seiko is so much easier to operate due to its size and the coin edge, also because it doesn't have crown guards. So for this I have to give the slight advantage to the Oris, because I feel it's slightly more important to be protected than to have an easier purchase on the crown operation. The Seiko has a very reliable fat spring bars that are better than any Swiss spring bars any day. But this is an exception, because the Oris has this screw shaft that is definitely more secure than the spring bars, so I'll give this point to the Oris. The loom, this has to go to the Seiko, hands down. The loom on the Oris is good for this price point, while the loom on the Seiko is just straight superior. More evenly applied and brighter. Even the loom on the Seiko Tuna that I have is better than this Oris. The loom on the Oris is good and functional, so not bad. I would say it's as bright as my Oceanus, but Seiko, Citizen, Orient loom, and even some Casios are just much brighter than any Swiss loom I ever seen. So point for the Seiko. The case back, this is something relative. Because although I prefer to see a see-through caseback on the Oris, I would guess the caseback on the Seiko is just more secure when it comes to water resistance. The Oris is achieving a 300 meter water resistance even with the see-through caseback, so that's impressive. Although I would guess that both watches can reach similar depth levels because the Seiko with the ISO certification has to be tested at 25% more the depth rate given to the watch, meaning that if it is a 200 meter water resistant, this watch had to be tested at least 250 meters as a part of a certification. In the other hand, the Oris has no ISO certification. Having an ISO certification makes it a little more of a real diving watch. They also have to pass many tests such as temperature shock, magnetism, shock resistance. The Seiko is probably a more capable watch to achieve its function. But definitely the Oris is an impressive watch achieving a 300 meter water resistance while having a see-through caseback, so this can go both ways. Next point is the case shape and the lugs. The Seiko has beautiful finishing alternating satin and polish, but for functionality, the Oris beats the Seiko on this one. The case profile, the satin finishing is more functional. I have to say the Oris sits better and more comfortable on the wrist, and it sits flat. On the Seiko, while it is also comfortable, it's just not as good because the caseback has these protuberances, so point for the Oris. The lugs on the Oris are also much more comfortable. The lugs fall down, giving continuity to the rubber band, so point for the Oris on that. The lugs on the Seiko are not so good functionally wise. I feel they often hit surfaces as they are pronounced, and it's acceptable because it's a vintage inspired. What the Seiko has that the Oris don't is the dia shield. It just works. The dia shield is a coating that protects the steel from scratches and dings, so point for the Seiko. Both watches have sapphire crystals, both good on their own way. The Seiko has a double dome crystal that I love, and the light distorts on an angle. The crystal on the Oris is probably a single dome, and it does distort the light at an angle. Which one is more functional? You'll be the judge. You can see the bluish AR coating on the Seiko, while the AR coating on the Oris is not visible. I prefer to see the blue color on the crystal, but this is a matter of preference, as one is not better than the other for efficiency. They are both very legible and don't reflect light in a similar way. The bezel on the Seiko is an amorphous diamond-like coating material that does not look as glossy as the ceramic bezel on the Oris. It's not as scratch resistant as the ceramic, but it's not susceptible to being shattered. Probably the bezel on the Seiko has more balanced properties when it comes to real diving. It's more scratch resistant than you probably think, and it won't shatter. A ceramic bezel is more scratch resistant, but a shattered ceramic insert is definitely more critical than a slight scratch on the Seiko, so point for the Seiko. On the Seiko we have a silicone strap, very soft and comfortable, but it's very long. And if you don't have big wrists, it's probably gonna overpower your wrist, making the keeper to come loose, and this strap excess will kind of get stuck on the way, and it's just uncomfortable. While on the Oris, I would say it's better because there's no access strap on the way. It is more probable that the clasp opens accidentally than the Seiko strap, but I think it's fairly secure and easier to put in and take off. Also, you have similar levels of adjustability in both straps. You have to take off the strap on the Oris if you want to increment the length, while on the Seiko you kind of do it on the go. But on the Oris you don't need to play around once it's set. You know it's gonna fit you well every time, because once you choose where to put the holes, they stay there. I will have to give these points on the Oris. It's a more interesting strap, it's faster to take on and off, there is no excess strap on the way, and it's just good. Now the half points, because these are not making the watch a better in terms of functionality. Let's talk the heft of both watches. I would say the Seiko feels just as hefty as the Oris. They both feel similar. The bezel on the Oris is better made. It's laser cut, filled with lacquer, and on the Seiko is just printed. The ceramic bezel will last longer if it's not shattered. The bezel action on the Oris is more refined, but there is more backplay than in the Seiko. I will let you hear both bezels. The polishing on the Oris is probably better than the Seiko, and part of this can be because the Seiko has the dia shield, and the dia shield makes it creamy. The crown on the Oris is signed, while in the Seiko is just plain. The outer bezel on the Seiko is a kind of an ionized blue that is more interesting than just a plain polished steel on the Oris. The loom pape on the Seiko has a sapphire cover, while on the Oris it doesn't look to be protected by anything, But it's interesting because it looks like lacquer, it doesn't look like loom material. The double deploying clasp on the Oris is much better. It is machined, the quality is really good, and it has some perlage finishing. The alignments on the Seiko are bad. Our hand is not aligned, the chapter ring is not aligned. On the Oris is much better. Overall, everything is better about alignments and quality control on the Oris, but the Oris still has a misaligned hour hand by 2 minutes, and the date window is tiny out of place sometimes. I don't think regular people spots these errors on Swiss watches, but I have seen errors on even Rolex and Omegas. Fun fact, the Citizen Pro Master that you can buy for only $140 has better alignments than even this Oris. No problem, as long as the dial printing is correctly aligned, that it is on the Oris, I'm okay with this, as the hour hand and the date wheel maybe can be aligned on the next service visit. Anyway, point for the Oris and better QCs. The printing on the Oris looks better. The handset and the apply hour markers feel of more quality than Seiko, and the dial, even though on the Seiko is more interesting because of the blue fading to black color, the dial on the Oris is just more luxurious. This dial is amazing on its own way. It's such a clean color that gives you a sensation sometimes as if the dial is not there. The dial absorbs the light in low light conditions, making it look kind of like if the hour hands were suspended in the dark. This effect is very slight but still impressive. In most situations it's dark, and on sunlight it's a luxurious blue. The dial has a sunburst effect and a glossy effect at the same time, so very nice. The dial on the Seiko is more interesting if you see the watch far away, but at some angles in certain indoor light conditions the watch looks a little bad, as it gives some strange reflection sometimes. I really like both dials, but I will have to give slightly this point to the Oris because of that mysterious luxury aspect. These are the results of both. The Oris is twice the price of the Seiko, and so I expected the watch to be twice better or substantially better than the Seiko, but it's not. If the Aquis had a more efficient movement with anti-magnetic properties and a bigger power reserve, then it will completely be a better watch than the Seiko. I would say the Seiko is a better value for the money, and overall it's a more efficient and functional watch than the Oris as a tool for half the price. The Seiko is simply a better watch, having a more efficient movement, more reliable, more trustable, more durable, anti-magnetic, with dia shield, better loom, and all that for half the price. So sorry Oris Aquis, Seiko is the winner, but I still keep the Oris Aquis over the Seiko based on my personal preferences. I don't go diving, so I want a better fit, better strap, better alignments, a see-through caseback, ceramic bezel, and a slicker dial. What do you think? Which one will you choose? Let me know in the comments. Without anything further, I'll see you later.